one ailment that does not get you a quick ride home, and that is good old-fashioned seasickness. If you feel seasick, instead of coming home, here's what we're going to do. You're going to stand up, turn around, and shoot it that way. Okay? In other words, don't puke on the glass. That's not cool. Okay?
Has it happened before?
Now, I do have puke bags. I don't know what other word to call them if you need one. So let me know if that's really an issue to you. Okay. Now guys, this glass you're going to be looking through today is just regular old tempered glass. There's nothing fancy about that at all. That glass is about a ½ an inch thick. It is not magnified. And if you want to take a picture through it, it works very well. But before you take a picture through it, make sure your flash is off. Turn that baby off. Otherwise, you're going to go home with a really good picture of yourself. How many of you guys have been on one of our 30-minute tours before? A couple of you, maybe? All right. Has anybody been on this tour before? Okay, good. This tour is going to be completely different than the 30-minute tours. 30-minute tours is kind of a quick on some of these animals here in just a little bit. We'll get to that here in just a bit. Now, being that said, if anyone has any questions while we're cruising down the river at all about anything, for instance, what kind of bird is that, or whatever the question might be, feel free to ask at any time. It's at the other end of the scale. This is what we call a magnitude 1. The reason it's a magnitude 1 is because this spring I'm about to show you produces 250 million gallons of water every day. Wow. And it's still not the biggest spring I'm going to show you today. That one I'm going to save for last because that was the big daddy of them all. But this is still a cool spring and it's pretty. This is going to be in 29 feet of water, and we call this particular spring the Blue Grotto. Now, it should be showing up here any second here. Here we go.
Here we go.
Now, the word grotto, let me get over this here. We're a little early yet, so. All right, let me turn and get right over it so you can see it. The word grotto means cavern. And if you look, especially you guys on the left, and I'll swing around so you guys on the right can see it here in a minute. If you look in there, you'll see a kind of a cavern. That's where the water's coming from underneath those rocks. Now we call it the Blue Grotto is because this beautiful blue look we get in the water. We get that look because all of this water coming out of these springs is 99.8% pure fresh water. In other words, guys, it doesn't get much cleaner than that. Blue Grotto. That water is also coming out at a year-round temperature of 72 degrees. That does not change all year long.
Where does this water flow into?
It ends up in the Atlantic Ocean. I'm going to tell you all about how it gets there here in a little bit. you look under the boat for a second, what you're going to see is the remnants of another old sunken boat. Can you see that? Don't tell me you can't see that.
The bow is way down there. It's huge.
You see it now? This is a movie prop.
It's back there.
It's a movie. It was a movie that was shot here back in 1969. The movie starred Burt Reynolds in it, and the name of this particular movie was called Sam Whiskey. How many of you guys have seen that one? Bet you not a one of you have, have you?
No.
There's a reason for that. Because it was a crappy movie. I don't know what else to tell you. It was a horrible movie. And it did not do well in the box office at all. So when that happens, they don't promote them. They're just done.
Yeah.
Now, the only reason I'm showing you this is because there's lots of artifacts down the river like this one from old movie shoots. The problem with most of them is they've all deteriorated to the point you can't even tell what they are anymore. At least this one, you kind of a little idea of what it used to be.
Wow.
I've been telling people for a good 2 years how terrible of a movie this was, and I've never seen it. But I got home one night and I wanted to see it. I wanted to see how bad this really was. So I got online. I'll be darned if I didn't find that movie. Called it up, started watching it. 10 minutes, that's all I could stand. That was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It was horrible.
And why we should.
What's that?
I said.
a good seat and take a look here. We're going to turn around the corner here and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. This happens to be my favorite spring, and it's really not because of all the water coming out of it. That's impressive, no doubt. But I like this one because it's just absolutely gorgeous. It's a pretty spring. Here in just a couple seconds, we're going to start to go over kind of a big rock. Should happen right about now. Now watch what happens when we get to the other end of this rock. The bottom drops down to 55 feet in a big hurry. This is Mammoth Springs. Now guys, if you're sitting on the left, I want you to take a good look down at the bottom toward the right. What you're going to see is a big cavern down there. Can you see that?
Yeah.
That's where the water's coming from. Now, if you're sitting on the right, oh man, you should have sat on the left. Couldn't see that at all, I'm messing with you. I'm going to turn around.
There's a girl's cell phone down here somewhere. And yesterday.
Kayakers, I'm going to come right over there. Now, if you're sitting on the right, start to take a look down toward the bottom, toward the left, and you'll see that big cavern down there.
Wow.
Now, guys, here's the interesting thing about this spring. 550 million gallons a day coming out of here. Well, look at this thing. You never know it by looking at it. Look how quiet that is. Well, here's what's going on down there. The water has you pretty fooled. That water is perfectly clear. There's no debris in that water whatsoever. In fact, the closer you look, you're going to notice there's not even any bubbles in that water. There's not a darn thing in there. And that makes it almost impossible to tell how fast that water is moving. You just can't see it. But this one spring that we're hovering over, guys, is responsible for 2/3 of this entire river. In other words, if you had an Olympic-sized swimming pool and you wanted to fill that pool, this spring could do that in roughly 45 seconds. That's a lot of water.
It's crazy.
Now, guys, I do have one more thing I want to show you before we're done today.
Statues?
This last thing I want to show you has to do with making movies here at Silver Spring.
The statues.
Now, back in the mid-'60s, there was a television show called I Spy on TV. Does any of you guys remember that?
Yeah.
If you're too young to remember that, that was a series back in the 60s. And what they did is they filmed one episode of that series right here at Silver Spring. The script for this particular episode called for some statues to be built underwater for the filming of that episode. So what they did is they built these statues in 30 feet of water. These statues themselves, they are about 7 to 8 feet tall, and they were named after 3 Greek gods: Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades.
Oh, I see that.
Now, as we get over these statues, these things were not made out of concrete or marble. These things were actually made out of fiberglass. Now, why would you think they'd make these things out of fiberglass?
There it is.
True, but it's simple. Yeah, it's the weight.
Oh, there they
The
are.
weight. That's all they cared about. They wanted some
How
light.
much it weighs.
Now, if you look, I got blown off here. Let me straighten myself out here. If you look underneath the boat here, in just a couple of seconds, you're going to see our 3 resident movie stars. This is Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades.
I knew mine, yeah.
See them?
Yeah. Yeah.
I see.
Now I'm going to take another pass here. While I'm straightening myself out here, these same statues were also used in 2 James Bond movies. Those came along a few years later. Those 2 movies were called Moonraker and Never Say Never Again. Both of those Bond films have scenes in them with these very same statues
Hey, for
that were shot right here where you're looking.
Why would they even do it?
So they made them out of light material so they could put them down easily, also consequently take them up easily. So why didn't they? Why are they still here? When the filming was all done for I Spy, the producer looked at his people and he said, guys, we're done filming, let's pick up our statues, let's go home. In other words, they intended to pick those things up. But when they started to pick them up, local people here in Ocala had an absolute fit. They said, do not pick those things up, those are way too cool, leave them down there. And they have been down there now since 1967.
Wow.
Now, my last question is, did everybody get a chance to see them at one point or another?
Yes.
Everybody good?
Yeah,
I don't have anybody going. I want to take a moment here and thank everybody for coming out today. That's going to wrap up our tour. I hope you guys had a little bit of fun going down the river today. It was my pleasure taking you down. You guys were great spotters. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you.